understanding how to put sentences together is the starting point of good writing. Silly grammatical mistakes and construction errors slow down reading, and they distract the reader from getting your message clearly and quickly. Let's quickly recap what makes a good sentence. Right, a good sentence has a subject and a verb, and often an object, and is a complete thought. Let's have a look at this example. John gave a speech. John is the subject in the sentence. The subject is what, or in this case, who, the sentence is about. The subject usually starts the sentence as a noun or a pronoun. Now, for those of us who didn't pay too much attention to this parts of speech lesson at school, John is a noun. If we had started with he, then it would be a pronoun. The verb is the action word that describes what the subject is doing. In this case, it is the word gave in the past tense. It could have been gives in the present tense, or will give in the future tense. The thing is, verbs are not always one word. They can have helping words with them to enhance their meaning. For example, has given or should give. This is really just a very simplistic explanation of verbs. We could talk about all the different types of verbs for the entire lesson. But, lucky for you, we're not going to be doing that. Lastly, note that the sentence is a complete thought. This is very important. In this case, the sentence also includes an object. So, nouns are not only subjects that perform the action, but they can also be objects that receive the action. And in this case, it's a speech. Right, we could talk for ages about sentences, about how we can turn a simple sentence into a far more complex story by doing various things. How about adding an adjective short? John gave a short speech. Adding an adverb, like reluctantly. John reluctantly gave a short speech. Adding an additional phrase, without his notes. Without notes, John reluctantly gave a short speech. Or a clause to honor his father. Without notes, John reluctantly gave a short speech to honor his father. We could go on, but you get the idea, and I like you, so we're going to leave it there. Basically, what is important to remember is that every sentence you write must have a subject and a verb, and it must be a complete thought. This may sound obvious, but you will see how often people make mistakes by not following this very simple rule. So then, let's have a look at some of the everyday mistakes. A sentence that is missing a subject or verb is called a fragment. A fragment may include a description or express parts of an idea, but it is not a complete thought. Look at these examples of fragmented sentences and see how we fix them by filling in the missing subject or verb. So let's have a look at some of these examples. Start after the weekend. This is a sentence fragment that does not make sense on its own because it needs a subject. What starts after the weekend? Classes start after the weekend. We added a subject, in this case classes, and the sentence is now a complete thought. The shop on the corner. This is a sentence fragment because it only has a subject and does not have a verb. Your reader is left wondering, what about the shop on the corner? The shop on the corner sells airtime. Right, now once we add a verb and an object, this sentence makes sense. And from morning until night. This sentence fragment is missing both a subject and a verb, so it really makes no sense at all. I worked from morning until night. We added the subject I and the verb worked, and now the sentence is a complete thought. Right, and another common mistake that non-English home language speakers often make in their sentence is forgetting to make sure that the subject matches the verb. This has a name and it is called the subject-verb agreement. Right, so the rule is a singular subject must have a singular verb, while a plural subject must have a plural verb. A great place to start is with it and they. Why don't you have a look here? It is very useful. The subject it is always singular. They are very useful. The subject they is always plural. Now people do seem to get a bit confused when the subject is far away from the verb. Let's have a look at this example. The main concepts of the happiness theory have been clearly outlined by Gretchen Rubin. In this case, concepts is a plural, and that is also the subject. That's why the verb is have been. However, we do have a singular noun before the verb, which is theory. and this might make things a little bit confusing. The secret in this instance is to always identify the subject and then make sure the verb matches it. Sometimes a sentence can be grammatically correct, but its length makes it very hard to follow. Right? You have a subject and verbs and a whole long tumble of thoughts. Now, the way to fix this problem is to carefully go through the sentence to see where you could split it up into shorter ones. And then simply take out or change any redundant words or phrases in it to simplify your message into one or two thoughts. Let's take this example. Donors help us serve our clients, and as a token of appreciation for this gift, when the holiday season arrives, they get to attend our annual festival ball as our guest. Now take note, this sentence is 32 words long and contains 4 different thoughts. If we rework it like we've just explained, here's what we can come up with. Donors help us serve our clients. We so appreciate this gift. That's why we invite them to attend our annual festival ball in December. Take note how that one sentence and all those thoughts becomes 3 sentences, each with a clear thought. We will talk about sentence length again later in this course, and it is probably one of the most common problems we see with all sorts of writing. And it's really easy to fix if you are prepared to take the time and put in the effort. Right, so what is parallelism? Parallelism is sticking to the same grammatical form in 2 or more parts of a sentence. And this really helps the flow and balances several ideas or points. Take this example. I like to hike, work in the garden, and watching movies. Now the first 2 items are in the present tense, hike and work in the garden. But the last item is in the continuous tense, watching movies. We can create a parallel structure in the sentence in 2 different ways. I like to hike, work in the garden, and watch movies. Can you see all the verbs are now in the present? Or, I enjoy hiking, working in the garden, and watching movies. All the verbs are now in the continuous tense, ending in ing. All the items in that sense now match, so the sentence is clear and all the points are easy to read.